These are the women of Wakefield Trinity, and they're about to play their nearest and biggest rivals, Castleford Tigers.
We've been working quite hard on our fitness and strength and conditioning. We've started an early pre-season in November, so they've been working hard, and hopefully, obviously, the warm weather is going to affect both sides, but we're hoping to make advantage of that and use it to our end and try to get them running and
tire them out.
Tire them out, hopefully. We'll see how it goes.
That's the great thing about weather like this. I think it suits the women's game because you're able to play more athletic rugby.
Yes, we're after a speed game, and that's what we're trying to do, like create more quick passes and just run into spaces a bit more, so just keep the game alive.
Watching it and observing in these conditions is lovely, but I think playing in it is a different kettle of fish. Difficult conditions to play in. We have to ensure that your players are well hydrated. I think as well when you've got a bigger pack, it can affect you because it drains your energy. So we've got to kind of play smart and play with the conditions that we've got and be astute in his game plan.
It's a home game for Wakefield, but that advantage might just be outweighed by the fact that Castleford are fielding a side that on average is younger and smaller. The conditions will suit them better. What both teams have in common, though, is that they're linked to Super League clubs. That's not accidental. They're the vanguard of what the Rugby Football League hopes will be a fully competitive Women's Super League by 2021. It's the vision of this woman, Sarah Jane Gray. She believes the women's game has huge potential, thanks to what she says is the commitment of community clubs to make rugby league accessible to all.
Absolute testament to all the work that the community clubs have done over the years to grow the women's game. But yeah, real momentum at the moment, and it's really important to capitalise on that.
It is, and we're going to do that as a sport with the new Super League. Tell us a little bit about that and the thinking behind it.
Well, the idea behind it was whether we could have a big lever that would kick on the women's game and really garner some attention, and that's where the Women's Super League concept came from. So we've consulted within the game and there's strong support for the concept. We're starting and building, so there's a 4-year roadmap for it, so we're building in a sustained way. We're starting with some fixtures this season and a final, and we will build in 21 in that exciting World Cup year to hopefully a 12-team standalone Women's Super League.
There seems to be a lot of interest in it. You can see numbers are up as well when you've got teams like Wakefield Trinity already playing, Castleford Tigers. It's like being akin to a club. Gets more interest involved.
I think so, and the clubs are the brands in our sport, aren't they? The Super League clubs, the professional team clubs, because the Women's Super League will be open to a team that's supported by any professional club, not just a Super League club, which to allow for our Featherstones and our Dewsburys to also take their place if they should like to. But those are the brands in our game. Those are the route into getting more commercial interest, even more broadcast interest, more sponsors involved in the women's game, and that's what it really needs.
Resources as well it needs. Will it get the resources?
It will get resourced. It was an important part of our submission and development to Sport England, and it's also a really important part of the new women's performance pathway, which is being headed up by Kevin Sinfield.
There are obstacles to overcome. Many of these women play union and league, and fixture clashes mean they have to choose one or the other. The creation of a top level of league for women might help make it first choice. Playing rugby regularly, though, has helped to raise the skill levels, coupled with the fact that teams are now getting expert coaching from women like former England players Lindsay Anfield, Brenda Dobeck and former Yorkshire coach Jo Phillips. She sees the benefits of marketing the women's game differently to generate more interest and encourage more women to get involved.
Yeah, I think that's the RFL's aspiration, ambition is to make these games, appealing to the wider audience. And I think, judging by the exposure that the game's got and the interest that it's kind of garnered, I think that it's well on its way to doing that, is engaging people's interest and giving them a bit of an appetite for women's rugby league.
It sounds like great on paper, doesn't it? My question would be, will there be enough teams who are able to field enough players to be able to put on a whole Super League? We look at Batley, they've not played many fixtures this year because of the demands on the girls for other games.
I think there is a concern, and I think that, you know, with everything, the concept is a work in progress, and I think that, you know, we've got to kind of look at it realistically, approach it realistically, and think that this period is laying the foundations for the Super League, and I think that in order to make it what it is, to be a Super League, to be an elite league, I think that's going to take time. But obviously they've got to get the ball rolling, and hopefully with the added interest to it, you know, hopefully there'll be more teams kind of established and be able to engage young girls and women into the sport, and hopefully be able to get these teams formed and hopefully start to maybe develop the top tier of women's rugby league, so it's a competitive, dynamic league.
I've watched lots of women's rugby league and I've watched lots of girls rugby league, and the standard is increasing all of the time. That's what I'm also being told by the England coaches who are preparing the women for this year. I'm looking forward to 21 as well. We have lots and lots of girls, tens of thousands of girls who are playing in school as well, so the future cohort looks very strong. So primary school kids who are playing, we'll reach 100,000 children and young people a year through that kind of activity, through the Sky Tribe programme. So the future looks very strong indeed, and the skill level is increasing all the time.
A Women's Super League, though, has to be more than giving women's teams names that the wider public will recognise. And both Castleford and Wakefield do have closer relationships with the Super League clubs whose names they share. Wakefield women have the benefit of coaching sessions with the former England head coach, John Keir, and Castleford share facilities with the Tigers at Weldon Road. Bradford and Featherstone have women's sides, and more clubs hope to follow suit.
Yes, exactly. We're looking at hopefully more men's clubs being affiliated to women's clubs, and that's going to create more exposure. We've got really good facilities down at Cass where we are, and that's all the help that we can get. So,
and I think what you really need is to have that, don't you? So you can concentrate on the rugby and not on the admin that goes around it.
Exactly, yeah. So knowing that you've got a pitch to train on, and you've got a good wrestle room and good gym for your S&C, that's all works in our favour. So every week everyone's focused and they know what they're doing.
As Kelsey Gentles raced in for this try, consigning Wakefield to Derby defeat in their first head-to-head, focus was already on the next time they'd meet, a Challenge Cup clash at the end of April.
I'm disappointed with the result, but I can only say that I'm proud of the performance, because tough conditions, tough opposition. We'll play them again on the 30th, so lots of work for us to do now to improve and kind of enhance and strengthen those areas where we let ourselves down a little bit today. But overall, credit to Cass. I think it was a good game for spectators to watch. Like I say, it's back to drawing board now for us. Training sessions, up the intensity, and I think now we've played them a little bit, we've got a little bit more insight into how they play, the key players, and hopefully on the 30th it will be a different result.
We played well today. I think we're happy with our performance, especially after last week being nil to the Bradford Bulls. We played some good rugby. There's bits we need to sort out and get through over the season, but I think we're all happy with how we did today.
Summer rugby's here, isn't it? And you've got a Super League to look forward to. It's looking good for the women's game.
It's looking good for the women's game. Floors like concrete. Don't be deceived by the sun. It was a sore game, but yeah, no, the Super League, it's exciting. We've got to compete with some hell of the teams out there, and we're excited. We're not quite there yet, but I think we showed today we're not a sort of that with a new team in the league, and I think it's so easy to sort of be like new team sort of off the cuff. It's not just our name that we're sort of riding on. Watch us today. I mean, we did brilliantly, and I think there's big things for us to come.
The future's looking interesting for Women's Rugby League, and it looks like the next generation is already hooked.